Welcome out to another episode of It's All Been Tricked For. This time, The Forsaken. Yeah, it's not about me, Jimmy, and Keith, but it might as well be The Forsaken. DS9. We're talking about don't be one of the Forsaken. Follow us on Facebook. It's All Been Tricked Before. You can find us out there. Spelled just like it sounds. It's all been tricked before. Have a lot of fun with us. You won't feel forsaken. You'll be one of us. You'll have fun with us. This is The Forsaken on It's All Been Tricked Before.
Welcome out to another episode of It's All Been Tricked Before. Your regular hosts are all here.
This is Steven.
And Keith.
Jimmy-Jerome. We're so glad to welcome Keith back. Last week, you probably heard his voice, but not in the discussion with the rest of us, like towards the end, just giving his own thoughts. But this week, he gets to do it with us because I am not going to sit and edit all of his individual thoughts throughout the podcast. That would be a lot of work, and I'm just not doing it. Sorry, Keith. So, we're talking DS9, The Forsaken. What are your first impressions?
For me, as I was telling you during the, I was glad that I still had the reveal to come. That we had a nice cameo coming up, and I thought it worked. I think in some ways we've seen this sort of storyline from her before. I'm being vague because I don't want to spoil it for the audience who's listening right now.
You haven't watched this episode yet?
Yeah. In case they're oh wow, wait a minute, we can't go.
Most of our fans do like to hear the first impressions, then hit pause and go watch the episode, and then come back.
Right? No, seriously. Lwaxana Troy, of course.
Yes.
Yeah, she comes out of the gate really heavy and dramatic, and we get to other places which are satisfying. And I think that was a good example of this.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought the same thing. Like, I don't have a ton of notes on this episode, and I thought the other elements were very blah, but I'm always happy to see her. Almost all my stuff's about Lwaxana. I wrote nice reveal in many ways, meaning, it's her, and she looks great, and obviously she's always in something a little bit revealing, so yeah, I was excited to see her.
Me too. Lwaxana, I like the character. She can be over the top and obnoxious. And she starts this, but I do think her strength is when she reveals that, not that that's an act, but when she lets that vulnerability come out. We talked about that previously on the Next Gen episode where she fell in love with the man that was dying. We've had a few times where that's really come out.
Yep.
And we got to see a very vulnerable, compassionate side of her in this. I mentioned to Steven in between episodes, this is the first of her 3 appearances on Deep Space Nine. I did look up the other 2, so I know that Imzadi 2 takes place after her 3rd appearance in season 4. She'll be back for 1 episode in season 3 and 1 episode in season 4. But to go with that first impression, what do you think of her dynamic with Odo? Because that is certainly something that's going to be followed up on in at least one of the other 2 episodes.
Yeah, I wrote, "Oh, horny Lwaxana," and then he says he's going to turn to liquid, and she's like, "I could swim." So,
that was a great line. Yeah. I wrote that line down too.
It's a classic. Odd couple is not exactly the right word. Opposites attract, I guess is what I'm looking for. But yeah, I thought the dynamic was good, and I thought it revealed not only stuff about her for sure, but I feel like kind of stuff we already knew, which is she comes on one way, but she's really has all this other stuff going on underneath. But with Odo, I don't think we'd seen this from him, so not quite this way. So yeah, I enjoyed that element of this episode. That storyline.
It was a good expansion of Odo's character. Mm-hmm. You're right. We didn't learn a lot new about her. I think she wanted sex from him, but not. I think they're not compatible relationship-wise, but I think they have the makings of good friends. The way they reveal what's going on and the understanding they came to with one another. I do think she's a very compassionate individual, and Odo needed somebody like that in his life to draw him out. Yep. And if he was going to have a vulnerable moment with someone, she was a really good one to have that vulnerable moment with.
I agree.
And it did make me excited that we're going to get another episode of the 2 of them together, because if you had to ask me ahead of time with no knowledge of her appearances on DS9, which character she'd have scenes with, Odo would not have been my first, second, third, or 4th guess. But it really worked for me.
Yeah.
Well, I think the odd couple, the odd couple description fits comedically, which I think is one of the more important things. Well, not more important, but I mean, one of the things that I enjoyed as it ramped up.
Yeah.
I mean, you knew you were going to get that, and it's they paid off on that sort of exasperation.
So when this episode starts, we meet a bunch of Federation ambassadors. It's almost glaringly obvious that she's not among them, because whenever we have Federation ambassadors. She's generally in the mix, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We had 3 in this case. We had Taxco, who is what speed was she human? I can't remember. And then we had a Vulcan and a Bolian.
Yeah.
She's played by Constance Towers, best known for General Hospital, where she did 151 episodes from 97 through 2002, so after this. The movie The Horse Soldiers in 1959, Shock Corridor, and A Perfect Murder. She was recently in an episode of 911 Lone Star, so she is still active.
Yeah.
67 credits.
Taxco is our Bosn, and our Bosn ambassador.
Okay. We had Lojal. Was that the Bolian or the Vulcan? Played by Michael Ensign.
How's that spelled?
That's the Bolian. That's the Bolian.
Michael Ensign was, we talked about him before. He was in...
No, Michael Ensign was definitely the Vulcan. I'm sorry.
Okay. Well,
he's best known for Titanic, the original Ghostbusters.
Yep. The hotel manager in Ghostbusters, and he was also in First Contact. We talked about him in that episode. If you want to go back and listen to that now, and then come back and listen to
The Next Generation. Yeah, and he'll do an episode of Enterprise as well, so I liked him.
Oh, cool. Yeah,
I had no idea it would be so much. I won't pay it.
Well, we'll just put it right back in there.
Yep.
And he also has the credit for Voyager, so yeah, they used him a lot in these years. But yeah, the third ambassador, Jack Shearer, I believe played the Bolian, Vadosia. He's best known for Star Trek First Contact, where he'll play an admiral. Also best known for the usual not the episode First Contact. There's a Star Trek movie called Star Trek First Contact. Because we were just talking about the episode. Interesting coincidence. Also best known for The Usual Suspects, 1995 film. I assume most people have seen. Heartbreakers with Jennifer Love Hewitt, The Negotiator. He did 3 episodes of Boston Legal. So he's got some credits. 88 to be exact. Looks like he hasn't worked in about 10 years. But yeah. So those are our ambassadors. I wouldn't say they're interchangeable, but I also wouldn't say that it really matters what the differences are between them. I mean, they all definitely had a characterization, but they were all bristly and annoying. Why is it that when you get ambassadors who are supposed to make peace, the first thing they do is make trouble?
We've had this conversation a few times. Man of the People, an episode we did not like, and Sarek and some other ones that in the future, and this is good, I think in general, ambassadors are rock stars, but why do they all have to be jerks? I mean, it doesn't make sense that these diplomats are jerks.
They're not jerks to the people that they work with.
Yeah.
In terms of like who they're negotiating, but they're jerks to the officers that they feel they have power over. And especially Bashir, who's like fresh out of the academy and a low ranking there.
And maybe that's the case in our world as well, but I don't know.
Oh, I should mention, because this was relevant to the last DS9 episode we watched, I did get the Deep Space Nine credit added to Kristen Bauer von Strauten's IMDb page. I was rejected a couple times, but I went to the message board, got some help, sent them a screenshot from Memory Alpha, and they added it. So now that is her very first credit on IMDb. Is Quark's Blonde Fantasy.
Inspiration to the kids out there. You can make.
I mean, I'm doing the Lord's work.
That's right.
So then we get the reveal that Lwaxana is among them, which. If you're a Lwaxana hater, and there are plenty of those out there, you're probably groaning. If you're a Lwaxana lover, you're probably excited to see her.
I don't gave a passion note on how great she looked, but I still love Majel as a blonde. That's still my preference. I'm not nostalgic and everything else, but I'll always love her as a blonde. So
I appreciate. Brought back the blonde, the chapel hair. Well, not really, but
but that's it. Yeah.
But I feel that while we've had a few crossovers like Q and the Duras sisters, Lwaxana might make more sense than any of the other crossover characters. The first season, they're really leading into bringing some next-gen characters over. And I'm not saying we don't see next-gen characters later, but I feel like they fit more naturally later than what they've done so far, where they've so far felt very forced in. Yeah. And she was probably the first one that didn't feel forced into me.
Yeah. Well, you can't really force her to do anything.
That's true. She is the daughter of the fifth house, holder of the sacred chalice of Rix.
Indeed.
Keeper of the holy something of Benazir. I liked how she she lost her brooch and she's making a scene. But I did feel like her scene was a little more justified than what the other ambassadors were doing. And I loved how she grabbed Quark's ear, which, from what we know about Ferengis or what we'll learn about Ferengis, that's essentially grabbing him by the balls and saying, figure this out. Yeah.
And her knowing exactly what she was doing, I thought that was a nice touch.
Yes. She knows Ferengis. She knows what she's doing. Odo actually defends Quark in that moment. Like, he's a lowlife, but he's not a petty thief.
Right.
And I appreciated that because of the dynamic between Odo and Quark. But and then of course Odo catches the thief. But I did think it was reasonable for Lwaxana to suspect him. I think Odo defended Quark without being abrasive about it, because that could easily have been Lwaxana takes it the wrong way, and then they both have to come to an understanding with one another instead of her continuing to pursue him. I like that she has enough ego, or lack of ego, to not follow up on her false claims when proven wrong. She's just like, well, you proved me wrong. Good on you. I like you. I respect you.
Yeah.
They mentioned that these Doctarians, because the thief is a Doctarian, are distant relatives of the Ferengi. Are they like Romulans and Vulcans? They're like a spin-off race.
That example popped into mind, but it seems like Romulans and Vulcans are much closer.
Yeah, it does. So that felt a little bit odd to me. Oh, was Texco the ambassador? Because I noticed there's another guest star. Oh, no, I'm sorry. She was, because the other guest star, Nara, I see her picture on IMDb. She was the Bajoran that was helping O'Brien in Ops. I mean, I don't know that we really need... I probably would not have even brought her up. She only has 15 credits. Had I not for a second wondered I was mistaken. This is her only Trek credit, was this episode anyway. But, yeah. Anyway, we won't talk about Andre Benita, who played Inara. O'Brien is bickering with the computer, which feels like such classic O'Brien to me. Mm-hmm. And I don't... So, Stephen, you don't have the DS9 knowledge of O'Brien. Did that feel like the O'Brien you know, or did that feel like a new element to his character when he's bickering with the computer?
It still felt in his wheelhouse to me, I guess.
Because I feel like that's more the version of O'Brien we're going to get from DS9.
Yeah.
Well, I think we've already gotten that at this point. I think that this is
a
really
kind
bit,
of
leading into the...
Yeah.
Well, they developed that aspect of the character in the sense of that... right. I would say it's sort of like... what they do with most of the major engineers within Star Trek, from what I've noticed. That's sort of like his elevation to that point of the bickering with the machines. And
I'm giving her all she's got, Captain.
Yeah, we don't see Geordi doing it. We definitely see Scotty doing it.
That's true.
We don't see Geordi, but we'll see B'Elanna Torres and Voyager in a similar vein. She's grumpy. Their Voyager's engineer.
I feel like we've seen Geordi talking to himself when he's trying to figure out a problem. That sort of thing.
Yeah. Anthony Rapp on Star Trek Discovery. He's your typical grumpy engineer.
And then, of course, we saw it in the holodeck.
Yeah.
Like quite literally talking to the reference with the doctor. Fine.
Yeah, no, you're right. Yeah, I just liked him bickering, and he actually calls the computer his archenemy. They mention, he tells Sisko he wants to rebuild the computer from scratch, but it's going to take 2 or 3 years. I don't know if that's ever followed up upon in the series. I feel like it should be. It should be, but we are told in these early days that DS9 is kind of falling apart. And I mean, the Cardassian engineering is not as good as Starfleet, and they didn't really take care of the station because it was a mining station. It's where they transferred the ore they mined on Bajor before they moved it off world. It wasn't meant to be the type of station it is now, so they really didn't take care of it. It was in bad shape, and after a couple seasons, it won't be in bad shape anymore. And this is a good example. O'Brien is basically redoing the station from the bones up while it's active in operation, which is pretty impressive if you ask me. Sisko's reaction when the ambassadors show up in Ops is fantastic. His face, both when they first show up and when he gets rid of them, just you absolutely see why he doesn't want them there. And they do such a good job explaining that the reason he's anti-ambassador is because of his backstory with Curzon Dax and how Curzon Dax used to torture him by making him host ambassadors. It was just such a nice little element. It's not a huge part of the episode, but it informs the character. It gives us some good moments, and Avery Brooks looks like he has fun. So I was all for it.
And also the thing about how he got rid of the duty, and it sort of harkens back to his reaction to Q at one point.
Yeah, that's true. He's got a little bit of a temper. Good point.
So he might be protecting himself too.
I don't think so, but I like how he tells Bashir after he tells him that story, though, as if that idea is going to Bashir's head. I'm less forgiving than Curzon was. That was fun to me.
Yeah.
They complain that in their quarters there are Cardassian gargoyles on wood poles. I'm really disappointed none of the quarters we see show the Cardassian gargoyles. I feel like that had to be a budgetary thing. I would have really liked to see the Cardassian gargoyles. Or maybe only the ambassadors rate good enough for gargoyles in their quarters.
One can only hope to make it that far in the business.
Yeah. I also really loved the moment where the Vulcan was about ready to school Dax because she was a young woman who didn't know what she was doing. And Bashir's like, actually, she's had 300 years experience.
Yeah.
and just the Vulcan's like, oh, okay then, never mind. Sisko says there'll be a briefing on the probe. He tells the ambassadors at 0400. That's 4 a.m. I guess if he has to brief the ambassadors, he's going to make them get up before 4 a.m.
Huh.
I mean, that's a dedication because that sucks for him too, right? Not just that.
Yeah.
Lwaxana calls Odo the thin beige line. Which he's talking about how he keeps order on the station. I enjoyed that line. We do find out that Odo is his only name. He doesn't have a first or last name. He's just Odo, like Oprah or Prince or whoever.
Yeah. None of whom Troy mentioned.
Madonna. No.
For some reason. Surely she's heard of them. Keep
Odo, I like
Lwaxana
telling Odo that, like, I've had to mold men into what I want, but you're the first man that can mold yourself. I mean, that's my alternate episode that just, like, it's all sex stuff between the two of them because we've established after watching Star Trek 6, we would love to sleep with changelings and all the possibilities that brings.
Especially if they can make themselves look like Iman. I did note that
Odo can't, though. He can't finish the face.
Yeah, there's a point where she slides down the elevator and it looks like a certain act is about to happen. He slides down, but the way it's shot before then, it could have been right out of a 90s porno movie.
Well, it was one of our regular directors, Les Landau. I don't know what he was thinking. Odo finds mating irrelevant and doesn't understand Lwaxana.
I was about to bring that up. That's I'm not sure. I mean, did they stick with that? It feels like something they kind of threw in for the purpose of the episode to make him sound completely. I mean, all right, I will say that fits with his attitude about things. I guess you would call that being aromantic in that sense, right? But at the same time, I don't know.
I kind of wish they'd stuck with that character because we don't have an asexual Star Trek character, so that would have been an interesting road to go down.
Right.
I choose to believe it's just him not wanting to talk about romance, like his crush. And for him, given his lack of experience, I assume his crush is just a crush that he doesn't really know how to act on.
Right. True. I will say, I was going to expand on that for a moment and say that it's, I guess there was a difference between not feeling that the types of rituals he was pointing out are pointless and not being and not having any sort of attraction, which I think I was starting to take from that at first, but that was probably misinterpretation of what they were trying to get across.
Lwaxana brings Odo a picnic, and we get a little more information about Odo. Like, he doesn't eat. These are just the closest he can get to, like, human looking. It's not hair, it's him, but it's not real hair and all that stuff. That I found all that very enlightening. I liked what it revealed about him.
I'm sorry, did they ever say that he doesn't need nourishment at all?
That's what it sounded like to me. And I feel like that's the way the changelings are treated for the rest of the series, is they don't eat anything. He just uses, as long as he regenerates for every 16 hours, he's good. That's all he needs. But that scene also gives us another great Lwaxana line about, I always wanted to see an upper pylon. I know that's not innuendo. It just is a great line. Yeah. That whole thing about him being like, can we just be quiet? And she's like, no, I can't be. You can be quiet, but I don't think I'm capable. And then, of course, Odo wondering about the voltage of the turbo lift if he actually tries to... That whole thing where Kira's like, yeah, you can't squeeze out because of the voltage and all that. It seems a little contrived, but it made for a delightful circumstance.
Well, it's also good for the audience questions eventually.
Yeah. It's like they were already anticipating what the audience was going to say. This was story by Jim Trombetta. Don't know if this was one of his touches or not. He has 8 writing credits, including 5 for DS9. The 5 episodes he wrote, this is the only season 1 episode. He'll write 4 episodes for season 2. So they must have liked him. They invited him back. And he will also write 1 episode for Voyager. He's also written 2 this was the end of his 8 episodes in IMDb, 8 credits. He also wrote for television shows The Equalizer, Miami Vice, The Flash in the 90s with John Wesley Shipp.
Yeah.
So, but then Teleplay was by Michael Piller, showrunner, and Don Carlos Dunaway, who has 16 writing credits. This is his only Star Trek credit. So his only credit is rewriting somebody else's episode. That seems interesting to me. He wrote the film Cujo, The Rockford Files. He wrote 4 episodes. So yeah. Sisko's perverse pleasure at the hitting and everything and torturing Bashir, basically passing the hazing that Curzon did to him, is fun, but I also don't feel like Bashir's earned it yet because we're just getting to a decent version of that character. I feel like you only haze the ones you love, right? Or does Sisko just so annoyed by Bashir at this point, he'll haze him? Just whatever.
I feel like we didn't get a ton of Sisko in this episode. We got enough. I liked his moment with telling Odo to lean into it or whatever he called him. Yeah, we didn't get a ton of him.
Yeah, maybe he was directing this episode.
No, he didn't. Les Landau. It wasn't Avery Brooks. Sisko will direct episodes later, Avery Brooks. Okay. But yeah, you're right. What we got of him was gold. It was just small.
Yeah.
Avery Brooks is so good. God, if everybody that's like flocking to come back to New Trek right now, I'm dying for a Sisko continuation with Avery Brooks. Dying for it. Especially because he has, I don't even want to get into the ending of the series right now, but he has so much more original possibility than these other characters. These other characters are just going to be on Starship. That's not where Sisko's story ends up. I want to see Sisko's story. Anyway. The computer attitude has changed, which brings O'Brien. I like that O'Brien realizes something's wrong because the computer's being nice and helpful. It was very much a Scotty story, you're right. Yeah. And Stephen, this is yet another way DS9 echoes back to the original series far more than Next Gen did.
Yeah.
The comparing it to a stray puppy, the virus that's in the computer.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's not a perfect metaphor, but it leads to a very understandable, digestible piece of story for everybody else. Like building at the doghouse. Can I keep it as a pet? Because it's not hurting anything. Again, so stupid. Who's going to keep an active computer virus as a pet? But it actually works the way they do it. I thought it was charming.
Well, it shows the classic anti-cat bias that we had Cat's Paw, where the cat was the evil cat. And here, well, I guess here the computer's not necessarily evil, but it is causing problems. So maybe that does make sense.
Well, Sisko said he could keep the pet as long as he kept it off the furniture.
And we did have Spot in TNG, who's very positive. Yeah. So you know what? I retract my previous statement.
Spot makes it into the first film.
Yeah, there you go.
So we're not done with him.
It's kind of like when you have the friendly ghost show up in some of the series, like an angel, for example.
Yeah.
So they have a friendly poltergeist now that they can probably use as a plot device at some point.
Yeah.
Well, they could have, but I'm pretty sure they don't. Yeah, I feel like I said, this first season is not strong compared to what comes later. But it does set up some things that I really wish they followed up upon. And if you're ignoring the first season because it's not strong and you figured out how to make the show better, that doesn't mean you toss everything out. You figure out what works and help revisit this computer virus, revisit the aliens that appear based on your imagination and say they're going to be back. It's frustrating.
It is.
Odo, apparently, he has to regenerate every 16 hours, but we see him at 15 and he's like sweating. It's not sweat, right? He's melting.
Very shiny.
Yes, you really can't stay up to that full 16. It's a hard 16 at that point. That's when Odo opens up to her about his time at the lab and how it worked and all that. And yeah, poor Odo. He was a lab experiment. He's basically Pinky in the Brain if they escaped and become security chief of a station. Stop trying to take over the world.
Since you mentioned that the hard 16 thing, I hadn't really thought that through, but I do appreciate the idea that it's not like the video game or RPG plot hole where you have like a 1 HP character.
Mm-hmm.
They're down to like 1 health point left and they're still just fully functioning and jumping around like everything's fine, and then you just one little nudge and then they're dead.
Yeah, that's funny. That's an excellent point, Keith.
Yeah.
The scene where they're distracting the computer while they remove the rods, ridiculous, right? I mean, it's fun, and I get what they're doing. And from a audience standpoint, who at this point in 1990, whatever, only a handful of us even had home computers at that point anyway.
Right.
And they don't understand it. And I feel like these writers don't understand computers, but a computer's sophisticated enough to handle the entire station of Deep Space Nine is not going to be distracted by running a few tasks.
No.
Well,
my computer will be, but their computer should be.
Well, it's more of a program than a computer, though. I mean, I think the idea. I guess I missed where they called it a virus. But did they actually say it was what exactly it was? I just kept hearing probe or something, or that it was on a probe.
They download the data from the probe, and it was corrupting the station systems until they boxed it in its own little environment.
All right.
Brings us up to the scene where Lwaxana comforts Odo and removes her wig. Good moment for the character. And just the whole, like, I never cared to be ordinary line was really good.
I wrote, we are all shapeshifters there.
Well, my daughter will frequently say something like, well, my friends don't do this now that she's in school. And I'm like, don't be normal. Normal people are boring. I love weird people. Everybody I'm friends with is weird. No offense. I'm only friends with weird people because why would you not be friends with weird people? I like to think I'm weird myself. I hope I am. So I encourage my kids to be weird for sure.
I think normalcy is a myth anyway, really. And I'm not sure if anybody who could actually be normal is weird in that sense. Or be, said this person is completely normal, because what would that even? All right.
I do feel like though there was the cultural norm that a lot of people used to strive for, and at least when I was little, and I'm sure when you guys were little, if you were not striving for it, you were considered odd and offbeat. But I feel like in the last 20 years, society and culture has gotten a lot more accepting of not striving for that, or not even trying to strive for that.
True. I will say, however, that I wouldn't tell many people to just be weird for its own sake, because that itself really is off-putting.
That's true. That's true. I guess embrace your weird is maybe the better way to phrase that. Mm-hmm. Anyway, when Odo told Lwaxana, "You're not at all what I expected," and her response was, "Nobody's ever paid me a greater compliment." That goes right back to what we were just talking about. I was loving that scene, eating it up. Really good stuff.
When she has some liquefy into her dress, the effect is super cheesy. Not the effort. The gesture is great, but the actual effect is super cheesy.
I'm pretty sure the shape-shifting does not get any better in the 7 seasons the DS9 ran. By season 4 or 5, they did start to incorporate a little bit of CGI, which was not present on Next Gen at all.
What year would that have been? What year would that have been? Trying to get an idea of what technology should have been.
We're in 93 right now, so I'd say around 95, 96, they started to incorporate a little CGI. And I remember reading about it in the DS9 magazine that they were incorporating CGI, but I'm pretty sure at that point, the changeling effect was established, so they didn't want to mess with that. So that's not one of the things they leaned into CGI for. They pretty much just did what they've been doing. Or if they CGI'd it, they kept it looking the same. It's just the way the changelings look on DS9.
Right. I don't think
if they redo it, they're not going to redo it. That's what it looks like.
I don't think anyone can be faulted until like after 1999. Matrix.
Oh yeah,
that was kind of like a marker point for when even like top level movies in Hollywood were actually finally starting to do something. We're going, oh wow,
Mm-hmm. Well, they talk a lot about in DS9. Odo didn't shift much in the first few seasons because the budget required was ridiculous. Yeah. Every time he shifted, it cost him a lot of money. And I wouldn't say he shifts a lot later, but we get more changeling stuff later, so we get to see some shifting. The main thing I remember them starting to use CGI about later is the first 4 seasons have a lot of repeated stock footage of spaceships. You're going to see the same ship out the DS9 window like 50 times. You're going to notice. It's so frequent, you're going to notice it. But around seasons 3 or 4, maybe 5, and Voyager was a couple seasons at that point, with the CGI, they were able to start doing more space battles and making them look good. I mean, that's part of the reason New Trek does space battles and Old Trek didn't, really, is because they didn't look good when they used to do them with models, or it was so much effort to make it done with models.
Yeah.
So later DS9, they're able to CGI ships, and that helps a lot with where DS9 goes.
You just made me now think of like you have the model and a cartoon laser beam line going to another one, and then over here diagonal. Yeah.
Bashir saves the ambassadors from a fire. A little bit contrived, but then he gets the combination. So
it happens
all's well that ends well, right?
We don't really see it. We just get told about it, which is weird. Yeah.
I don't really care about that subplot, so I don't mind.
Me either.
I more enjoyed whenever the times it affected ops.
Yeah.
And Cisco interacting with it. That's what I enjoyed about
it. When it comes to Picnic's line, essentially it's Up in the Air stole it. The movie Up in the Air, George Clooney and Anna Kendrick, where he says, life's better with company. That's essentially what they're saying there. And I didn't realize picnics were still a thing. But it makes sense in the 21st century.
Of course they are. Yeah. They have been for hundreds of years. They will be for hundreds more years.
Yeah, there's many different kinds of picnics. And my alternate episode was kind of like, with the Super Bowl coming up, it was kind of like the Puppy Bowl. Puppies literally running a space station. That is my alternate episode. Which, belies my earlier cat talk, but I have a cat sitting next to me. She okayed that statement. So Chloe is okay with that for in this instance. Well,
I mean,
maybe not.
I really couldn't think of an alternate episode as we were watching, but talking about the computer virus and Miles keeping it as a pet, my alternate extension would have been, I really would have liked just a couple scenes of him playing with it like it was a pet dog. That would have been fun.
Yeah.
Like, what are you doing, Miles? His wife's like, what are you doing tonight? Why are you? Yeah, I'm just playing with my pet. I mean, Keiko's gone enough. He has time for it.
She's probably back on Earth since her mom's 101st birthday.
Who was your shady character?
This one was a quick one, and I thought it was going to go somewhere, but I have the Bajoran IT person who was taking the little things out of the... I thought she was up to
something. That was the other actress I mentioned, yeah.
Oh, yeah. I thought she was up to something, but she was not.
Anara?
Yeah.
You found Anara shady. Okay.
Yes. Yeah, I thought she was up to something, but turns out she wasn't. But maybe she was, and we'll just never know.
I mean, she's only in this episode, so this could have been her plan the whole time. Infect the computer with the virus, blame it on the probe.
I'll pitch a Paramount Plus series based just on her from this episode.
I mean, I'm gonna go. There wasn't much shady going on in this episode. I'm gonna go with the thief that stole Lwaxana's brooch.
Yeah.
Actually, that's pretty much it right there.
Who was your annoyance in the Forsaken?
The ambassadors collectively.
Yeah. The one specifically who was complaining about the room wanting to be upgraded.
Yeah.
The female ambassador. What was her name?
That's what the boy would want to put it.
Taxco.
Yeah, I had actually written down the puppy virus, but I'm going with Taxco. Now that we've discussed it, I kind of like the puppy virus. So I'm going to go with Taxco instead. I think that's the correct choice.
Going back to my shady character, the actress was Benita Andre. Maybe you already said this.
Yeah.
But she only had 15. Oh, yeah, we did, because we mentioned she only had 15 credits. Is that right? But one of them was...
Oh, it's Benita Andre? You're right.
Yeah.
IMDb has her as Andre Benita. But you're right, she's credited as Benita Andre. I'm sure it's an IMDb mistake.
She has some good
should we make an effort to fix this?
Yeah. She's on an episode of Monk.
I guess we'll find out.
2 episodes of The Shield. This one good cop movie.
Almost every credit of hers says as Benita Andre or as Benita Martinez or as Benita. Yeah, they need to fix her name. I'll submit once. I am not going to go down that rabbit hole. I'm sorry.
Pick your battles. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll submit it once though, because it is a glaring easy fix.
Yeah.
But yeah. Anyway, I don't even know how that came up as a mistake. But we're having
I kind of went the other way with it. It's a Lwaxana episode. I went with the computer.
Oh.
Since it was
the virus or the computer, the grouchy computer.
The computer with the virus. I went with that.
So the nicer version of the computer.
Yes.
The merged computer.
Yeah.
Merged headphone. Yeah. I'm gonna go with Lwaxana.
I was gonna go with Odo actually. So mostly so I can keep pressuring him to try drinks. It's like, come on, you really like these. You just need to try. But
more to melt.
I feel like from our discussion, we should go towards the top on this one. Also, because season 1 hasn't been great. Let's start with The Passenger. Better or worse than The Passenger?
I would go under.
Yeah, I would too.
You think that was better?
I think The Passenger was better. It had more things going on. I think it was a better through line. Yeah. I think the components in it were strong enough to hold the episode down. This was sort of like a collection of little things that they kind of, this could go here.
Yeah.
I probably would have gone above, honestly. We're disagreeing a lot more these days on these. Above that is Battle Lines. Would I go above Battle Lines? Nah, I'd probably put it below Battle Lines. I'd probably put it as number 4 for the season. But we're going down because you guys want to go down. Below The Passenger is Progress, which I loved with Cranky Majel.
Yeah.
I would have put it below Progress. So but I would have put Progress a lot higher, personally. I had Progress as number 1. You guys knocked it down.
I don't think this is better than. No.
Nah, I don't either.
Below Progress is The Storyteller. O'Brien went to the village and told stories.
See, I really like The Storyteller.
I did not.
I can see how it might be similar in some ways, though.
It's pretty close. If I had a coin, I would flip it. Above.
Above Storyteller?
Yeah. I'm kind of split there, and I think that's probably where it should probably be anyway.
Okay. Yeah, so I'd just go a couple higher. But again, I would put Progress a lot higher. So it would only be like 1 or 2 higher.
Yeah.
No, just 1 higher. I would have just put it 1 higher. So yeah, we're all in the same roughly range, other than our major disagreement on Progress. Cool. So that's the
nature of progress.
That makes this number 6 for the season so far.
All right.
We only have 3 left, though. So we're getting near the end. My favorite of season 1 hasn't happened yet. My favorite episode's still coming up. And if you guys don't get on board for that, I'm going to be so sad. But we'll see.
Well, next week. You're going to get her to like.
Well, I always give the first impression last, so you won't know what my favorite is until after you've told me what you think of it, which is the way it should be, right?
50-50 chance then.
There's 3, so you get a 33% chance. Actually, you should be able to identify it just by watching it, I think. But anyway, and I'm far from the only one with the opinion that it's the best of the season. A lot of people say that, so I think it's okay. Next week, Dramatis Personae. The entire station's command staff, save Odo, become power hungry and vie to defeat each other by forming secret alliances and plotting assassinations. Odo tries to figure out the cause of this mysterious behavior.
I already love it.
I bet it's some kind of light beam.
Keith, my reaction was the opposite. I was like, oh crap, this is going to suck.
The title already sold me. I can't help it.
We'll see. I don't remember this episode, so we'll see if it's good or not. Until then, live long.
Take the escalator for some exercise and prosper.
Yes, but not alone.
It's All Been Done presents
Who's Got the Time?